And welcome back to Kellen on the mic, the only college basketball show where the host is more excited for Pitt versus Virginia this weekend than the Super Bowl. Okay, that might be a little bit of a lie, but I mean, who can love the pack line defense? But we're back and we're excited to talk college basketball, get you caught up on what happened last week, get you prepped for this weekend, and we'll jump right into the Forest Five.
Run, Forrest, run! Run,
So the first topic we have to talk to on the Forest Five was Wild Wednesday. On Wednesday this week, we had two of the top five teams in the AP poll lose to severe underdogs. Villanova, number 3 team in the country, lost 70-59 to a 12-7 St. John's team. But even more shocking probably was the number 5 team in the country, Houston, lost unfathomably to East Carolina. It was the first top 10 win in East Carolina program history, actually, and their first top 25 win since 2002. And it wasn't even a top 10 win, it was a top 5 win. So pretty crazy Wednesday. But what this really goes to show me, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot, is that outside of Gonzaga and Baylor, every team has severe flaws, and that's why there's just such a clear gap between these two. The rest of the teams, regardless if you're ranked in the top 5, you can lose to any team on any night. Just look at what Houston did. They moved their way into the top 5, then they lose to an East Carolina program who had been struggling all season. But huge win for the East Carolina Pirates, so shout out there. And we got to give some more mid-major love. So the second topic, we got to give some mid-major love. We always talk about the big boys, but this week we're giving some mid-major love, and we're heading to the Missouri Valley Conference, and we have a Sister Jean sighting. So the lovable face of the Loyola Chicago Ramblers, who many of you may remember from the 2018 tournament when Loyola Chicago made their miracle run to the Final Four as an 11 seed. So the Loyola Chicago Ramblers, they're back again. They are 8-0 in the Missouri Valley Conference and trail only the other team we need to highlight, which is Drake. Drake is currently a top 25 team for the first time in 13 years. They were ranked 25 in the AP poll this week, and they are one of the only other remaining undefeated teams outside of Gonzaga and Baylor. They are 17-0. And they've actually faced their toughest test this weekend, as they had a 78-76 win in OT over Illinois State. So they keep proving that they can win close games. I know it's not the best competition, but hey, winning games still matters. According to ESPN's Joe Lunardi, Drake would be an 8 seed, and Loyola would be a 10 seed. If he were making the bracket, obviously things can change. Obviously he's not 100% correct, but it gives you a good idea where they might be. And remember, Loyola was an 11 seed when they made their run. And so with Sister Jean on their side, you know, anything is possible. So keep Loyola and Drake in mind when you make your brackets. Drake would be an 8 seed according to Lunardi. So I mean, they're ranked in the top 25. He's not giving them as much respect. So be interesting to see where they end up, especially if they don't end up winning the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, if there is going to be a tournament. But if they don't win, both these teams should get in regardless. So we'll be interested to see where they finish up. But we got to give some mid-major love all the time. Can't only talk about the big boys. But one of the big boys we have to talk to, and I know you guys are going to get sick of me always talking about them, but again, all the shows are talking about them because they drive ratings, and that's Kentucky. And we got to give a little Kentucky update because they had another brutal loss to Missouri on Wednesday. I mean, they were in the game for the majority of the game. Then down the last 4 minutes, they just imploded. Some questionable coaching decisions on who was playing. In the eyes of the Kentucky media, Devin Askew kept getting played. Didn't get taken out for Keon Brooks until the last few minutes of the game when they were down 9 and it was too late. Then things started to implode after the game. Coach Cal was asked about Terrence Clark, who was supposed to be one of their stud freshmen coming into the year. he was asked about him. He hasn't played in weeks, 5 weeks to be exact. And Coach Cal's quote said, "If you're limping around after 5 weeks and the MRIs and scans show nothing's wrong, you can't play." So there are a lot of question marks in Kentucky. The vibes are real bad in Lexington right now. The Kentucky fan base is up in arms. Some of them are jumping on Cal, saying he cares more about getting his players to the NBA than winning basketball games. And a lot of times that has worked for him in the past. Because he's been able to get these incredible freshman talent and play them. But right now it's not working. He's playing Boston, and he's playing these young guys who he thinks could get in the lottery over guys like Dante Allen who can actually win them basketball games. So things are bad in Kentucky right now. They're 5-11. They basically have no hope at making the NCAA tournament outside of a miracle SEC tournament win, but I just can't see that happening with how they're playing. So we'll see how this ends. I don't think it's the end of Coach Calipari in Kentucky, but again, I wouldn't be totally shocked if things move on, if they part ways after the season. You got to remember he has a lifetime contract, whatever the heck that means. I don't know if he leaves, does that mean he dies? I'm not sure what exactly is going on there, but things are bad in Kentucky right now, and as a Kentucky fan, it's tough to watch. But we'll see what happens, because they have a strong recruiting class next year. We'll see what happens with these young freshmen if they decide to stay or leave. But right now, not good in Kentucky. But now we're less than a month away from Selection Sunday, or we're getting to a month away from Selection Sunday. It's coming close. We're about 5 weeks, 6 weeks away. And we got to do a little number one seed updates. We'll start to do this kind of weekly, get you caught up on who we think is going to be the number one seeds, the top seeds, who are we looking for. And of course, barring some major skids in the last half of the season, Gonzaga and Baylor are obviously going to be number one seeds this year. Who ends up as the overall number one seed? Now that's a little more up in question. Baylor has been playing unreal lately. They've been beating really good Big 12 teams. They just beat Texas this weekend, and it's interesting to see how the committee ranks. Obviously, Gonzaga had the big wins earlier in the season, but now Gonzaga is playing their conference, which isn't as strong as Baylor's, and Baylor's getting the impressive wins. So we'll see where it all ends up. Obviously, if Baylor loses a game, they might slip up, and Gonzaga will hold on to the number one overall seed. But we'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But after those two teams, it gets a little. You can have some debates. For me, Michigan would probably be the third number one seed. But Michigan's actually on an athletics. Entire Michigan athletics is on a delay because of COVID. So right now they would be my third number one seed. But we will see how the delay impacts Juwan Howard and the Wolverines when they resume play. We've seen teams come back and be a little shaky, and it throw off their rhythm. Look at what happened to Clemson when they had to have a delay because of COVID. They were one of the hottest teams in the country. Everyone thought they were ACC favorites, and then they lose. They go on a little of a COVID delay, and they're currently on the bubble in the NCAA for the NCAA tournament right now. So it's a weird year, and handling the COVID outbreaks is just part of it. As for the fourth number one seed, I would still lean Villanova. I mean, one loss to St. John's. They're still 11-2. A loss to St. John's in a conference game on the road. It's not the worst loss in the world. But I would keep an eye out for Ohio State, who now has the most quadrant one wins after they beat Iowa just last night. A very impressive win against Iowa. And Illinois. There is a very good chance that we could see, when it's all said and done, the Big Ten could have 4 of the top 8 seeds in the tournament, which would be crazy. I know it might hurt them that they're all going to end, they're all still have to play each other, but Illinois, Michigan, Iowa, and Ohio State, I mean, those are all great teams. They'll all be at least 3 seeds. We could see all 4 of them being either 2 or 1 seeds come March. And then finally, we'll do some top seed updates, and we'll do some bubble watch as we go on. And there are going to be some nervous Duke Blue Devils fans come Selection Sunday because, as it would stand right now, Duke is probably on the outside of the bubble looking in. They actually had their best win of the year on Saturday against, I mentioned earlier, a struggling Clemson team, but they dominated that game and it was the best they looked all season. But then they followed it up with a bad loss to Miami on Monday. So again, just when everyone thought maybe Duke could turn the corner, they go out and lose to a not great Miami team. It's a little shaky there with Coach K and the Duke Blue Devils. And the problem for Duke is the ACC isn't that good. They don't really have chances to get some really quality wins to boost their resume. One of them actually probably comes this weekend when one of the best rivalries in sports tips off and North Carolina is heading to Cameron Indoor. It's a weird game to see both Duke and North Carolina unranked. That I don't even know the last time that has happened. It's probably been a while. And it probably won't be the same atmosphere. There will be no Cameron crazies, but it'll still be fun. And I think Jalen Johnson, the freshman star from Duke, is going to have a big game if they are going to sneak back in and get into an at-large big. And they need this one this weekend to start on that path because, as I mentioned before, the ACC, it's not amazing. They don't have a lot of chance to get any more great quality wins. So they need this one. But that's the Forest 5. Now we'll get into some picks. We did all right last week. We are 2-1 on the Forest favorite. So I tweet out the Forest favorite every week. So make sure you're following the Twitter account to get that pick. We're 2-1, so we're starting off well. But I'll jump right in, and I got to pick the game I just talked about, North Carolina at Duke. And I think I'm going to go North Carolina. They're getting +4 points. Again, these are according to Ken Palm, so they might not be the exact lines you get, but they'll be pretty close. And I like North Carolina +4. Again, as I mentioned, Duke looked good on the weekend against Clemson. Then they followed up with a bad loss at Miami. I can't get a read on this Duke team, while this North Carolina team, they've been playing well as lately. So you're going to take North Carolina +4 on the road. And here's how you know that I'm down on Kentucky. I try not to ever pick against Kentucky because it hurts me to do it, but I'm pretty confident in this one, so I'm going to give it to my listeners. Tennessee -3 at Kentucky. If that is the actual line, I can't see Kentucky covering 3 points. There's no way. The things are going badly right now. They're not gelling as a team. Coach Cal is calling out his players. Things aren't going well. And Tennessee had a big win against Kansas in the SEC Big 12 Challenge last weekend. They're playing much better. John Fulkerson, he's been a bit of a disappointment last year. He was arguably, a lot of people had him as an first team All SEC this year, and he's been a little disappointing. As people would say, they haven't been able to get Fulked up this year. I said Fulked. Don't worry, Mom. I said Fulked. So we're going to take Tennessee -3 at Kentucky. I think that's a no-brainer. And we're going to stick in the SEC, and we're going to take Alabama at -3 at Missouri. We're taking a lot of road teams this week, but again, for me, road teams don't make as much of a difference this year because of the no fans. Obviously, the sightlines still make a difference, but doesn't make quite as a difference. So if you're getting Bama, who had a little bit of a bounce back win against LSU, but they seem to love playing LSU this week. They just have kicked the crap out of them both times they played them. So, and Missouri, I watched that game against Kentucky. Yes, they won, but they let a bad Kentucky team hang around for quite a while. So I think Bama wins that one fairly easily. Take Bama -3. And then lastly, we're going to take Texas -2 at Oklahoma State against Cade Cunningham. Texas, they've had a few shaky games the past few. They just lost to Baylor, but everybody loses to Baylor. I like them to bounce back. Not sure if Shaka will be back this weekend, but I don't think it really matters. Take them -2 against an Oklahoma State team that just lost to TCU, who had lost 5 or 6 straight coming into that game. They lose to Oklahoma State loses to TCU. who had been getting beat by all these good Big 12 teams. So if you're only needing to cover 2 points, I think Texas wins more than that. I just apologize for everybody if you have to watch that game and watch from the Oklahoma State camera angles. Bring some gravel, as I mentioned on the last show, because you're going to be way up in the nosebleeds and you're going to be staring down. But that's our show for this week. We will see you all next week. And until then, as always, survive and advance.